The weird cousin from out west. That's what they called the black woman right in the middle of her own half-sister's engagement party. No welcome. No hugs. Not even a friendly glance. The groom-to-be sneered, mocking her in front of everyone. The eccentric artist in a family full of business tycoons. But when the name Springfield echoed from the direction of the fireplace, a silver-haired man in a razor-sharp suit slowly turned his head, and the room froze. Because everyone in that house knew, Springfield Holdings wasn't just any name. And in that moment, they all realized, the woman they had just laughed at was the one person who could tear the entire party apart with a single nod. That one was new. It happened on a sunny Sunday afternoon, deep in the hills of Connecticut, at her half-sister Jasmine's engagement party. Champagne flowed, violins played softly in the background, and every corner of the house whispered affluence. Emily arrived 10 minutes early, wearing a navy silk blouse and heels that had seen more boardrooms than weddings. No one greeted her. Jasmine spotted her near the hors d'oeuvres and gave a tight-lipped smile. "You made it?" she said, as if Emily had RSVP'd to a dentist appointment. Her fiancé, Eddie, walked over moments later, wrapped an arm around Jasmine's waist, and asked, "This your cousin?" And then to the crowd he added, "She's kind of the oddball artist of the family." Emily didn't flinch. She simply smiled and sipped her drink. Then a deeper voice cut through the clinking glasses. "Did you say Springfield?" An older man turned slowly from the fireplace. He had silver hair, a sharp suit, and his eyes narrowed straight at her, as in Springfield Holdings. Just like that, the atmosphere shifted in the room. Emily and Jasmine hadn't grown up as sisters. They shared a mother in a hallway, but little else. Jasmine was the daughter of Emily's stepfather, born into a world where everything she did was praised. Emily, on the other hand, was the daughter of a man no one talked about, least of all their mother. Growing up, she learned early to stay quiet. She wasn't the kind of child who got her photo framed on the mantle or a front row seat at a school recital. Jasmine received ballet lessons and birthday parties complete with ponies. Emily got a bus pass and a list of chores taped to the fridge. It wasn't that Jasmine was cruel. Not at first. It was that she never noticed Emily. Not when she passed her exams. Not when she left for college on a scholarship. And not even when she started her own firm with nothing but student loans and determination. Jasmine lived in a world where Emily was either invisible or an inconvenience, and their mother didn't make things easier. Her love was conditional. It was something you earned by being obedient or useful. Emily recalled one incident in high school when Jasmine was caught shoplifting lip gloss. Their mother called the store manager and somehow got the security footage erased. 2 weeks later, when Emily missed curfew by 15 minutes, she had her phone taken away for a month. That was the pattern of their lives. By the time they reached their 30s, Emily and Jasmine had gone nearly 10 years without speaking. The last interaction was a hurried Christmas phone call that ended with, "Say hi to Mom," and a hang-up before Emily could respond. She hadn't expected an invitation to the engagement party when it came. She wondered if it was a mistake or something their mother had orchestrated out of obligation. Yet, a part of her showed up, maybe out of curiosity or because a small part of her hoped things could be different. But the moment she stepped into that house and felt the stares like she was something unwanted, she knew Jasmine hadn't changed, but neither had their mother, who gave Emily an air kiss at the door and said, "Try not to make things awkward, dear." Awkward. That was the word she used for simply existing. Emily watched Jasmine move through the room in her soft pastel dress, flawless and calm, her diamond ring sparkling with every champagne toast. Eddie, her fiancé, was just as polished, tall, confident, the kind of man who knew how to charm a room and turn cold when no one was watching. When he came over to Emily, it wasn't to welcome her, it was to manage her. "We told everyone you were Jasmine's cousin," he said in a low voice. "It's simpler, less explaining." She raised an eyebrow. "Simpler for who?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. For the family there, it was again that old message: stay in your place, be small, Don't take up space you weren't given. Emily almost laughed, almost. Then she heard the voice again. Mr. Larry James, the groom's father, cutting through the room like a knife while asking about her last name. Just that one word, Springfield, stopped him. For the first time in years, someone looked at Emily, not with pity or annoyance, but with fear. You'd think that after Mr. Larry James spoke, someone might step in, ask who she was, offer her a drink, maybe even apologize for calling her the weird cousin. But the room did what rooms like that always did. It pretended nothing had happened. Conversations restarted. Jasmine laughed a little louder. Eddie pulled her away to meet a cousin from Atlanta. Emily stood there with her untouched glass of champagne. Invisible once more, only Mr. James kept looking, watching, thinking. He didn't come over, not yet. But Emily saw him talking to someone, probably his assistant, who pulled out a phone and started searching. She moved toward the back patio. The cold November air was easier to bear than the fake smiles inside. She was almost at the steps when she heard high heels behind her. "Emily," Jasmine called out, her voice dragging over the name like it didn't belong in her mouth. "I didn't think you'd actually come." "I RSVP'd," Emily said without turning around. 3 weeks ago," Jasmine sighed. "Well, I figured you'd change your mind. You're always unpredictable." That was her word for Emily. Not strong, not independent, unpredictable. "I think Eddie handled things well, don't you?" she added. "It's just easier for people to think you're my cousin. Not everyone gets our dynamic." "You mean the part where you pretend I'm not your sister?" Jasmine stiffened. "Must you be dramatic?" "No," Emily replied, finally turning to face her. "But I must be honest." Jasmine looked away, touching the hem of her sleeve. "This day isn't about us, Emily. Please don't make it into something it's not." "It never was about us," Emily said quietly. "It was always about you." Jasmine walked away before Emily could say more, disappearing back into the crowd of guests and glowing chandeliers. She stood there, trying to steady her breath when a voice interrupted her. "Emily Springfield." She turned. Mr. Larry James was beside her, more serious than before. "Mind if I ask, are you the Springfield of Springfield Holdings?" She didn't flinch. "I'm the founder and managing partner of Springfield Holdings." His eyes widened slightly, but he quickly recovered. "I thought so. I've seen your name in the merger proposal we've been in talks with, though your team has kept things anonymous." "That was intentional," she said calmly. "I see," he paused. "Do you know what company we're merging with?" "I do," she smiled faintly. "Dear son and daughter-in-law." The color drained from his face. He didn't answer. She left him there speechless and walked back inside. As she passed Eddie, he smirked, like he still had control, as if nothing had changed. It was almost impressive how blind he was to the consequences. A cousin she didn't recognize leaned toward him and whispered, "Who is she really?" Eddie shrugged. "Some finance type. Jasmine's family has some odd branches." She kept walking. Let them whisper. Let them stay in the dark for just one more night, because soon they would understand. She wasn't just a branch on Jasmine's tree. She was the storm coming for their whole orchard. Just before she reached the exit, she passed their mother, who was talking near the piano with 2 distant aunts. Their mother barely looked up as Emily walked by, but said one thing in a low, tight voice. "You always have to make everything about you." Emily paused, then turned slightly. "No, Mom, you just hate it when I don't let you make everything about you." Her mother's jaw clenched. The aunts went silent. Emily kept walking in that house full of fake smiles and quiet judgment. She was the only one not pretending. She didn't stay much longer after that. She walked around, spoke politely to strangers who wouldn't remember her name, and thanked the servers, who looked her in the eye longer than anyone else had. She had already made her mark. Now it was just a matter of time. The merger proposal had been in the works for months. Her firm, Springfield Holdings, had quietly taken over 3 struggling companies that Larry James' company depended on. It was a long, careful plan. No one needed to know her name during the deal. She only needed them to sign. What Mr. James hadn't realized until he saw her standing in his house, drinking his champagne, was that the woman behind the anonymous firm had been next to his son the entire time. And Eddie? He didn't notice. Not even when Mr. James pulled him aside later that night. Not even when Emily saw Jasmine watching her from across the room, her face changing from confusion to something darker. Not even when Mr. James canceled the rest of the speeches and went into his study with 3 phone calls waiting. The next morning, she got a message from her assistant. Mr. James' team called. They want to fast-track the deal, but they're asking if you'll meet in person. He insisted. She replied with 2 words. Next week. By Tuesday, she was sitting across from Mr. James in a glass-walled office overlooking Manhattan. He didn't greet her with small talk. "Why didn't you tell anyone who you were?" he asked, straight to the point. "Because no one asked," she replied. His jaw tightened. "You let my son insult you." "No," she said. "Your son insulted someone he thought didn't matter. That's different." He leaned back, his fingers pressed together. "This merger is important to us." "I know," she said. "I also know you have the power to change the terms." He tilted his head. "I could, but I won't." He raised an eyebrow. "I'm not here to punish your company. I'm here to finish the deal. But I'll say this once. Keep your son out of any future talks. He's arrogant, careless, and short-sighted. I don't work with people like that." He didn't respond right away. Then he nodded. Understood. By Friday, the new documents were signed. Her name was printed on every contract, every ownership transfer, and every future clause. Ed's name was nowhere. That weekend, she got another invitation, Jasmine's bridal shower. She didn't go. Jasmine called her for the first time in years. "Why didn't you tell me what you do?" Emily paused. "You never asked." There was a long silence. Then Jasmine said, "Everyone's talking about you now. Dad's impressed." "I'm not doing this for your dad." "I know," she whispered. "But still, it's weird. I feel like I never knew you." "You didn't," Emily said. She ended the call softly because the truth was Jasmine never tried, and now she would have to live with what came from building her life on a foundation she chose to ignore. Later that night, Emily got an email from one of Mr. James' board members. The subject said, "Discreet respect." The message was short. "You earned that room's attention without raising your voice. You have my respect." It shouldn't have mattered, but in a quiet way, it did. Not because she needed their approval, but because she had once believed she would never earn it. She poured herself a drink. Nothing special, just dark rum over ice, and sat by the window in her apartment. She watched the city lights flicker like they understood. This wasn't the revenge she imagined as a girl lying awake in that cold room down the hall from Jasmine. But maybe it was better. No drama, no shouting. Just quiet power and the peace of not needing their praise. The next week, she received a handwritten letter. Yes, a real letter from Jasmine. It came in a cream envelope sealed with gold, and her handwriting hadn't changed since high school. Soft curves, hearts over every I. She wrote that she hoped Emily would come to the wedding, that Eddie had said sorry, that he didn't mean to be cruel, just nervous, and that their mother regretted how things had gone. She said she hoped they could start fresh. Emily didn't reply, not because she was angry, but because she was finally done pretending for people who only saw her when they needed something. Instead, she made a phone call. Mr. James' assistant picked up on the first ring. Emily asked her to transfer ownership of the 3 companies, not to Ashcraft Capital, but to a nonprofit educational trust under Emily's name. She had planned to sell them quietly, but now she saw more value in legacy than in control. The assistant hesitated. "That's a generous move, Miss Springfield." "No," Emily said, "it's strategic. I'd rather build something that lasts than keep feeding men who can't see past a woman in heels." The assistant gave a small laugh, then caught herself. "Noted. I'll prepare the paperwork." The day of the wedding, Emily received photos through a cousin she barely knew. Jasmine looked beautiful as always. Eddie grinned wide in every picture. But behind their smiles, she saw something else. A tension, like they were trying too hard to look happy. Others might not see it, but she did. Apparently, Mr. Larry James had stepped down from the board the day before the merger had gone through on her terms. Whitaker Holdings now owned 51% of their regional division. That morning, Emily went for a long walk through Central Park. Her scarf was tucked into her coat, a latte in hand. No assistant, no calls, just air and quiet. A little boy ran past her chasing a balloon. His mother laughed behind him. Emily smiled, not at them, but at something deeper, something lighter inside her. A weight had lifted, the kind of weight that leaves when you stop begging people to see you and instead start seeing yourself. She sat on a bench as the wind picked up, pulled out her phone, and opened the voicemail Jasmine had left the night before. Her voice was softer than Emily remembered. "Emily, I guess I just want to say I'm sorry, not just for that party, for everything. For not seeing you, for letting Mom's voice drown yours. I wish I'd been different." There was a pause. "I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know." Emily deleted the message, not because she was angry, but because she was at peace. Some stories didn't need replies, they needed endings. But later that night, she played Jasmine's words again in her mind. She sat in her living room barefoot, jazz music playing softly in the background. For years, she had wanted Jasmine to see her, not as the sister who left and turned cold, but as the woman who built something out of nothing, who climbed with no help, who survived. And now, even when Jasmine finally looked, it was too late. Their mother didn't send a letter or an apology, just a short email a few days after the wedding. "Hope you're well. It was a lovely event. We missed you." Emily didn't reply. She forwarded it to her attorney to finalize the trust documents. She added a new clause. One of the transferred buildings would be used to open a vocational center for young women from low-income families, not just scholarships, but real skills, financial literacy, career preparation, a launchpad. If her family couldn't see the value in what she had become, maybe someone else would. She also made one small change to the name of the center. She called it the Odd Cousin Foundation. When the press release went out, Jasmine's friends shared it all over social media, tagging her again and again. "Isn't this your cousin's company? Wow, your cousin's doing amazing work. What an inspiring story. You must be proud." Jasmine blocked most of them. And that was the thing. No matter how much she tried to change the story, the truth had already spread. Emily wasn't the weird cousin anymore. She was the woman who rewrote the ending, not with noise, not with anger, but with precision. She didn't burn bridges. She bought the river, changed the current, and built something better on the other side. A month later, she received a holiday card from Mr. Larry James. It was formal, simple, printed on thick ivory paper. Inside, one sentence was written in dark blue ink. "Thank you for reminding us who we were dealing with." There was no signature, none needed. She pinned the card inside her office cabinet next to an old photo of herself at 23. In it, she had tired eyes, a cheap suit, and stood outside the first building she leased for her startup. Back then, she thought she needed their table, their attention, their approval. Now, she owned the table, she picked the seats, and she didn't need applause to know she was exactly where she belonged. Sometimes she thought about what could have happened if Jasmine had introduced her the right way that day, if Eddie hadn't dismissed her with a smirk, if their mother had reached out instead of hiding behind social grace. Would she have given them another chance? Maybe. But she was glad they hadn't, because the way they treated her wasn't an accident. It was instinct. And instincts, especially the kind built on feeling superior, don't change easily. They don't change overnight. Emily hadn't spoken to Jasmine since the voicemail. Jasmine hadn't reached out again. Maybe she was waiting for the right moment, or maybe she knew there wouldn't be one. That was fine. Everyone has to live with the stories they tell, the ones they tell others, the ones they tell themselves. Jasmine had spent years telling herself Emily was difficult, cold, dramatic. It helped her stay the favorite, the perfect one, the daughter who fit. But now the world knew a different story, and Emily didn't need to explain it. She just had to live it. One afternoon, Emily was finishing a meeting at a quiet cafe when a young intern from another firm walked up to her. The girl looked nervous, holding a small notebook in her hand. "Are you Emily Springfield?" "I am," Emily said. The girl's eyes lit up. I just wanted to say what you did with the foundation. It changed how I see everything. Thank you. Emily smiled, not because she needed to, but because someone finally saw her, not for what she wasn't, but for who she had become. And in that moment, Emily understood something she hadn't before. Redemption doesn't always come from those who hurt you. Sometimes it comes from those who were watching and who chose to see you clearly. In the quiet that followed, with nothing left to prove, Emily felt something rare, not power, not victory, just peace. And for the first time in years, that was enough. If you've ever been underestimated, silenced, or called the odd one out, know this: you don't have to shout to be heard. Just build something so powerful they can't look away. Drop a comment if you've ever been overlooked and came back stronger. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell, because here, we tell the stories that make silence shake and respect rise. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And sometimes, the best way to be seen is to stop asking and start becoming.